Good evening, VC. This is Bev here, and this is my contest entry for Dan over at Dan's Vinyl channel, soon to be known as something else. This is my entry for his Changes contest that he's running in honour of, he hit the 100 subscribers mark recently and he's well surpassed that now, so congratulations, Dan. You've pretty much made a good run, a good start and run in the vinyl community, and your channel is a very likeable channel to watch, with your DJing microphone setup as well. It's like listening to some guy on the radio. It's pretty cool. So I like that. And I like your interesting tastes in music and what you show as well. So keep it coming. I'll just have to figure out what your channel is going to be called later. Meanwhile, at the risk of babbling, because I could babble here, here is my selections for your Changes contest. So Dan wanted us to show between 3 and 5 albums, or however many you like, I suppose, which indicates or represents some form of change, whether it be the band lineup changing, the band's name changing, anything to do with the band, their music style, or anything to do with you, your life. Maybe an album coincides with a change in your life, or it reminds you of something that changed in your life, or just anything to do with change. So I've kind of picked out 1, 2, 3, 4. I've actually got 7 here, but there's 2 of them where there's 2 albums I'm going to talk about as one, so it's kind of like 5 or 7, if you like, and I've kind of put them roughly in date order as to how I want to talk about them, and also as to how they came out, they were released, sort of thing. So the first one is meant to take them out of their sleeves as well to minimise the glare, because I'm showing, they're all CDs that I'm showing here. So the first one's basically the most straightforward. This is Scorpions and Crazy World, and it's my favourite Scorpions album. Reason being, it was the first Scorpions album I ever bought a full album of. It was kind of the first Scorpions album I was really introduced to. At this point in 1990 when it came out, I knew about Rock You Like a Hurricane, so I was aware of that and 1 or 2 other songs. But this album, they had specifically a huge, big, massive hit with the ballad, the power ballad, Wind of Change, and that's my change for this one, really. But it's kind of fitting in a way that song and that song title should be on here, because 1990 signalled the end of the 80s, obviously, and the start of the 90s. And at this time, the hard rock and metal scene was about to undergo some torrid times, if you like, from the up-and-coming grunge, which was bubbling under probably around this time and was about to explode in the next year or 2. So, you know, I guess Wind of Change, change was in the air, that's for sure. And so that's basically the first one, the song Wind of Change, and it's not my favourite song on the album by any means. I pretty much love most of, just about everything on here. This is a great album, and I got to hear more of the songs on the local radio's rock channel when they were playing it at the time as well, which prompted me to go out and seek out a copy. So, next up, this is significant change in my life and in the life of this band. Major. Yeah, Def Leppard Adrenalize. So this came out in 1992, which was probably, by what they had initially planned, it was probably about 2 years later than they'd hoped. After Hysteria, they initially hoped to have something out by early 1990. When you read all the old interviews at the time, this was what they were kind of hoping for at the time. But obviously, the major change here being that they lost Steve Clark in 1991, who just so happened to be the driving force and the lifeblood of this band. And he just so happened to be my absolute guitar hero, rock star hero. So this was a major blow for me. And so this album is very bittersweet to me. When it was released, yes, I wanted to get it because I knew Steve was involved with it, and I had heard a clip of one song in particular that was going to be on it, which appeared in the 1990, or was it? It was 89. It was a 1989 BBC documentary that they did. That they filmed. The most professional documentary to this date that I've ever seen of Def Leppard, I might add. They were in the studio, and there's a clip of this song where Phil's playing along over to a demo or something like that, which happened to be Stand Up Kick Love Into Motion. And I knew Tonight was another song that had been around for a while. But yeah, this album was obviously finished and completed and completely re-recorded without Steve Clark, hence the lack of feel and finesse, you know. I guess this finesse there is perfect in that polished and overproduced sounding way, because to me this is way more overproduced than Hysteria ever was. I don't think Hysteria is overproduced. But this, on the other hand, I feel is just a completely different tone in the sounds. And, you know, I like a handful of the songs, but they just don't have the feel and the specialness that the other stuff did. So pretty much for me, this, I would say this more or less signalled the end of Def Leppard for me as I knew them, and as pretty much everybody at this time knew them. However, they carried on and continued to change further with their next release, their next studio release, which happened to be that slang nonsense. So that's, you know, big change there. Def Leppard, 4-piece band lacking the major piece. So next up, from the very same year as it happens, I was going to show this one, and then I pulled out another one which kind of, I think, signals more of a change. So this and the next one is one of the pair from the same band. Excuse me while I open up the sleeves. So this is Bon Jovi, Keep the Faith. And 1992 again, so it came out in that time when music was changing, you know. It was kind of like, these were kind of 80s albums released too late kind of thing. However, this one, I feel Bon Jovi did a better job of maybe trying to adapt their sound a little bit more to the time, more so than Def Leppard. This was them trying to make another Hysteria, and feeling, basically, which, you know, I could talk about that all day, but getting back to Bon Jovi, I found this to be a little bit different for them, and at the time I didn't really like it. The first track was Keep the Faith, and I thought it was more of modern sounding. The beat to it, you know, the drum beat, it was almost like a rap rock kind of thing. It spoke to me at first. But the song, it turned into a real groovy kind of rock track. But there's a lot of good rock and stuff on here. But I think this was the last album that Bon Jovi released with their original lineup with the bass player Alec John Such. This was his last with them, so a bit of a change for Bon Jovi as well. And which brings me to this one a few years down the line. These days, I can't remember if this was actually the following studio album. I know they released Crossroads, the compilation thing, in between. But as for studio albums, I think, was this maybe the one that followed Keep the Faith? I'm not sure exactly. I can't be 100%, but this I find does sound a bit different for a Bon Jovi album. I think the songs on here are a little bit more different than, say, these, now that I've had all these years to listen to them plenty of times. But I like this album. I think it's a really good hard rocking album, and I saw them on this tour actually. But for me, this kind of signalled the end of my big interest in Bon Jovi, if you like. My interest afterwards fell away, because in the 90s I was kind of not really into music a great deal at that time, due to the times, the musical times. The grunge thing did nothing for me. The Britpop wasn't really my thing. Some of the alternative, personally for me, the music scene was dire compared to the 80s. It was like black and white or night and day between the 80s and the 90s for me, and the 90s was just awful. There was a handful of things that interested me, but you know, I really lost all interest in music, and so Bon Jovi, this was the last album of theirs that I actually do own. When they released Crush later on, I heard a couple of songs off of that, and I have the Crush tour DVD, which I really enjoy. So there's some songs off of that I like. But for me, this was kind of the last really good album of Bon Jovi. I don't know what their more recent albums are like. I really, you know, This House Is Not For Sale or whatever, I have not heard anything off of that, but I believe Bon Jovi don't sound quite like what they used to either. I don't know. So there you have it. Next up, this was a major player in me getting back into music, this one. So I will signal this is a change album for me. When Iron Maiden released A Matter of Life and Death in 2006, at this point again I was trying to find something in music to latch onto, something that I liked. So I was again dabbling in this band and that band, and coming up with, no, I don't really like them, no, that's rubbish, that's, you know. And they had this nu metal nonsense as well, and you had, you know, Limp Bizkit and Slipknot, and then there was other bands who were highly regarded, you know, by people, and they have a big, and I can't even remember half their names, but you know, they all sounded miserable and depressing. And I thought, for God's sake, what do you have to do to write some music that's going to lift you up, you know, because I had just come out of a difficult bad time in my life, and the last thing I wanted was to listen to miserable music, you know. However, when Iron Maiden came along with this, I had read in a magazine a glowing review, and I was hearing one or two other glowing reviews, so I decided I am going out to buy this album on CD. It's the first CD I had bought for years at this point. This came out in 2006. So I didn't even have a CD player at the moment. I had a computer I could burn the CDs on and put them onto my iPod. I had I still have the iPod Classic with the sort of wheel style thing. Still got that. Still got a lot of stuff. So this is how I was listening to my music at that time, headphones through the iPod. And I burned this one onto it as well. And I would sit on the computer as well and sometimes browse the internet and have the music playing. And I really got into this album. I thought, this is really a good album. And for me, it kind of kick-started my interest in hard rock and metal music again. And so I decided to go out and buy some more Iron Maiden stuff on CD. And then my collection for Iron Maiden started to grow a bit. Again, and this was in a period where, you know, I didn't have any music playing equipment. None of this came into the house until last year, all of what's behind me here. So so I really have Iron Maiden to thank for helping get me into music again. And at that time, I came across another band I was trying to sample, if you like, is this band, Feeder. And this is an album of theirs. It's one of their earlier ones. It was their third album, I believe. Now, this came out in 2001, so it was 5 years before Iron Maiden's Matter of Life and Death. But it was around this time I heard a song, somehow, somewhere, from this album. And I thought it was quite catchy, so I decided to pursue it, probably online, to the point where I ended up buying the CD. Now this band are described on, I've got the Wikipedia page up here, and they're described as alternative rock, post-grunge, post-Britpop, hard rock, garage rock, power pop. So that's kind of what they are. Whatever that means. And this represents for me a sort of a style change of a different musical style. This alternative rock or post-grunge, garage rock, whatever you want to call it. But this was another album that I got into around the same time as Matter of Life and Death, so this also helped get my interest back. However, I went and bought another couple of Feeder albums. This is another, I did have another, but I think I got rid of it. But this one as well, I'm not overly excited about. This is the only album from Feeder that I really quite like, to be honest. And I pretty much like most of the songs on here. I can listen to the whole album through without any problem and really enjoy it. And there's one or two songs on the other ones, but again, it doesn't do for me what this one seems to do for me. So again, for some reason, this particular album I liked, with this alternative type of style, but not so much the others. So that is another change for me as far as music, etc. goes. So that, I mean, so, you know, they represent lineup changes and personnel changes and sound changes and style changes and periods where they helped me get back into music, you know, all these albums in particular. So I hope that this counts. You quite like this blabbering, 20 minutes of blabbering from me here. I'm going to get a drink in a minute because my voice is drying up. But well done again, Dan. Cheers on your great channel and over 100 subs. I'm pretty sure you'll keep going upwards. And I'll see you all in another video. So just before I go, I have a link below to Dan's final channel, which will have a different name in the near future. So if you haven't subbed to Dan, definitely get subbing. Check him out. He's absolutely brilliant. He's like a pro. He's like a, well, I'm assuming he's a radio DJ or a former radio DJ. So anyway, see yous later. Bye the now.